Dumelang re amogela mo go Daily Thetha on SABC 1. Nna ka lebitso ke nna Nicolette wa ga Mashile ngwana wa kwa Bushbuckridge Mapulaneng. Yena re tshwareng nna le mela matsogo ke Sesi Fortune wa ga Madlala. Le gone re go botsa gore na dijo tse o di jang na ke tsona tse o di tshibang ke tse o go dileng ka tsona na kapa has it been influenced by the Western culture? Re go botsisa gore na what is the one meal that you spend most of your money on? What is the one meal if you were to eat that for the rest of your life? That's the meal that you would be choosing. But also, have you ever felt judged when you are eating what is considered as traditional African food? Because only a saying that says, "Nchupe tsona dijo tsa gago ke tla go bolela gore wena mang."
Ngisikubikelele ekhaya vele ke ngithemba ukuthi sifike isikhathi sokudla. Njengoba sikhuluma ngakho ukudla, igama uMiya uqwanini uSibeke. Ngithi ngibonge ukuthi sithola ithuba ukuthi namhlanje sibuke ukuthi ngempela ifundo ziyakhombisa ukuthi abantu abaningi lendlela abadla ngayo it's all influenced by lendlela abahola ngayo. And lendlela abahola ngayo kind of determines ukuthi shabo fine and dine or mhlambe nje wena uyithandela nje ukudla okusimple udlela ikabishi kodwa sifuna ukunderstand thina ke njenge Daily Thetha namhlanje ukuthi ngempela ukudla kwethu sukhetha ngani, what helps us influence the food we eat, and maybe more understanding ukuthi what is traditional food. And mhlambe ukuthi wena khona uthi I traditional food ngicabanga ukuthi ikabishi or akusikabishi, please utilize the social media and be a part of the conversation where you get to actually comment on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook. Alternatively, ngicela usifonele on 011-339-1315.
It's going to be an exciting show, Melody. We've got a food technologist, we've got a dietitian coming, we've got a restaurant owner, we've got a self-taught cook. Geez, we've got every single person. Those foods that are supposed to be known as African food, but somehow have been influenced. And should we really stick to African food? Let's welcome our studio guests. I think Melody restart the range. What is considered as African food in your world?
I feel like African food is like food that you grew up eating. Food like it's more like traditional food. I feel like you can't define traditional food. Traditional food is what you grew up eating in your household. You can't be like, this is traditional food.
I'm
Pedi.
Yeah. What is traditional food for Mapedi?
Well, literally. Pap also can count for that.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like chicken feet,
yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Milalana, stuff like that, you know. What's that?
Those big frogs.
I don't know, like since I was young, we're here in Gauteng, so we based here, so I wouldn't know. Maybe they do, but I wouldn't be like, no, they don't. Yeah.
If Beli Dulako if Beli would you be eating differently from Polokwane compared to Gauteng?
Yeah.
What do you think you would be eating?
Because like when like Mahayeng, maybe for the holidays and stuff like that, like Mahayeng are limited. You don't have access to things like you have here Gauteng. So like you eat what is there. Like if you know they have like their own things like gardens, so you eat whatever they have in that moment. If there's meat, you eat meat. If there's like mroko, if not cabbage, you just
Captain, what is traditional food Papa?
Traditional food we are I would say masonja, moroho. Dijo tse kaofela it all kaofela tsona ke di traditional foods.
Yeah.
Like for instance, back to back, uthola or di khomo.
Yeah.
Ha ba hlaba khomo ha ne ba khona hore ba cut ba etse di biltongs.
Yeah.
By be for sometimes ile moro le ona ne ba etsa the very same thing of which it tradition ya rena batho ba bantu.
It's very more Captain because sometimes we as Batho we make organic food seem like it's traditional food.
Angiyakuzwa ma mhlambe ubhuti ngapha ngangichazela nami ngizofunda bhuti wami awukuzibika ukuthi igama ubani and for wena ngempela khona umehluko between traditional food and urban food.
Sanbonani Dumelang. Hello. Igama nguAndile. Ukuya ngam I'm close 100% closer but ke godile le Batswana so I prefer speaking Tswana. There is a difference because yaka awile awisi ole traditional food rena le bo masonja rena le ka Xhosa ra re umpokoqo and then we also have what do you call this we have
so
I wanted to speak it in Xhosa, ne? But like I said, I'm more into Tswana. Different. So
but okay, so let's compare. What's the difference between Tswana traditional food and Xhosa traditional food?
Okay, Batswana bajanama, barata nama tata.
Namaxhosa mos.
Amaxhosa bathanda umphokoqo nomngqusho. Yeah, umngqusho wobe ngifuna uthetha ngawo, wabona.
Yeah.
And then difference ko Batswana barata nama tata.
Okay. Kusho wena asazi. Thingeza kubhutiza awuzibi ukuthi ubani ubuyaphi and wena awungitshela ukuthi traditional food into ekhona kwamampela or nje just abantu bayilabel.
Ngegama uTsepo from Whiteville. There is a difference between traditional food and urban food. Because according to the way ngakhona urban food yiwo lama yini amabheka lawo and so forth yabona. African izinto esikhule ngazo yo stampu yo papa lemogodu yabona tutsi. So there is difference between the two yabona. Yes.
Okay, so namhlanje we get to learn more about traditional food and how it really works for us. But kwamanje ngicela semgaqweni and join uLethukazi as she gets to find out what's happening on the streets.
Namhlanje neDaily Thetha siyabuza the social status of African food. Abantu abaninzi xa bebona ukutya kwethu bakulinganisa nenhlupheko bathi siyindawo yokubhenela xa kungekho mali. But I personally love inkobe and it always reminds me of home. And unfortunately andiyifumani kwindawo zonke endifikelela kuzo. Kodwa sifuna uva abantu apha estratweni babathini nabona, is our food really a sign of poverty or do we genuinely just really enjoy it? Masiyeva babathini na. What's your favorite meal?
Amas. Umroho nepap. Krata nama. Especially fried chicken, le chakalaka.
Burger, chips and cool drink.
Ngithanda umngqusho mntasekhaya. Yabona umngqusho ngoyena ondisebenzela nale weather uyayibona uba injani. Zavele nivuthulule wona nje namhlanje.
When do you eat this meal? Mawunemali, mawungenamali, kanjani?
No, ngingakhetha noma ukubheda yabona because vele ukudla okubalekile khona ukudla okusakha emzimbeni okunempilo. Siyakhona ukuthi umzimba wethu benefit khona lokho kudla.
Ngiwapheka njalo every week I think nyawadla mas.
So sibuye like African food ne. Sicela ubuza ba, do you think that people are right in associating it with poverty?
Hayi good bayadevana nenhlupheko because ukutya like umngqusho for instance into engikhule ngayo ekhaya yabo. So ayithethi ngokuba imvelaphi yami okanye kutheni into nje esikhula ngayo ekhaya.
How do we get mukhodu or traditional food to be to the same level as Chinese food, which is you usually have your sushi, Italian, your pizza? How do we do that?
Post that traditional food on social medias so big brands can look you up and things like that. Yeah.
I'll post mangina or post mountwana, mukhodu as much as possible. I think but babangata they would prefer eating that.
Uyabezwa ke abantu abasha bakhuluma abanye bathi hayibo into zethu lezi akusindaba yemali. But also quickly, a quick social media read is that Dietary says that yes, we still hold our traditional food to a very high standard. We are living in urban areas but agricultural people. We eat morojo, dinoto, ditonse, midi, maraka, etc. And we don't buy most of vegetables because of our mashemo gardens. On my weekly menu, we eat different foods from breakfast like the pata, hope I'm saying it right, madombolo, madombolo, but not same bread every day. And sometimes we bake as well home bread. We are not influenced by the multiculturalism at my home. And clearly not poverty. It's called healthy eating from agriculture.
It's very interesting because I think sometimes it depends on also the time that takes to be able to make these kind of foods, because some of us so you grab what is convenient and that's what end up making you look like you've been westernized. But we're having this conversation right after the break. Back on Daily Thetha. What is the social status at Dijo? And when do you eat certain foods? And when do you feel like I can't eat this in public because I cannot it just doesn't feel like it's food that I can put even on Instagram. We're joined to have this conversation by owner and chairman of Sakumzi Restaurant in Soweto, Usakumzi Makobela. Welcome to Daily Thetha, Papa.
Daily Thetha.
So we're excited to have you because social status, where does it lie? But I think maybe let's start with your relationship. Where did it start? Where did it come from? What influenced it?
Yeah. We started 2001. Being long sama computers FNP, long sama ATM abo. So mangenama calls ukuthi ngiyolung sama ATM bengihlala ngenzi nix. So I-computer mayilungisile ngahlala i-week, ngahlala i-month. Kwi-area yakho ungasebenzi. So bengiba number 1 elokishini. My friends when they come from work bazoza bahlale nathi. Oyi-1 aphuma uthenga ama-cold drink, omunye i-Fanta, omunye i-beer. Sekugcina kuba i-Blom Black. When I sneak inside the house, bafika ngidla bavele bafaka izandla nabo bazidlela. Mangifunda i-tourism yakhula eSouth Africa. Ngenzani ngalokho market Baba Mandela asekucomplaina ngeunemployment asekucomplaina icrime inkulu kumalokishi ethu wabuza ukuthi wenzani wena in your own capacity. Sure. Kula mangifunda newspaper bathi tourism yakhula eGoli. Then I started small with my friends that were coming. Then I decided ukuthi kunokuthi baloko bedla mahala behlala nami mahala ngone bakhokhe something masihleli song.
Sure. But let's talk a little bit about so we understand ukuthi iqale kanjani eSakumzi. But how did you decide ukuthi uzo offer ukudla okunjani? That decision influence intoni?
Mawuya eNorth uthola ama-pizza ama-burger, mawuya eSouth burger pizza. East West mangithi ngiyabheka eSouth Africa 5% yabantu abahlala khona it's white people. 50 million it's black people. Sure. Why must we be dominated ngama-pizza nama-burger when we want to eat our own food, when we are proud to have a pub, when we are proud to have trotters on a Monday, sidle nje amangqina.
Mkhodu Mondays.
Mkhodu Mondays.
Mhlawumbe
ngibuyele kancane emuva because I mean njengoba usho there's ama-franchises with commercialized business and ngoba kwezama-business that's how we've seen there's more places as ama-pizza and ama-burger. Mhlawumbe sibukele to your business. I mean you have only one as far as we know Soweto. Mhlawumbe akwakafiki la ufuna ukuvula enye as a franchise. Kola sithi masithi siyabona ukuze sikhule sikwazi ukuvula ezi4 ezi5 funeka siye kwi-drawing board la sizoba ne-research and development la sizokwazi ukuthi sizoba nayo i-capacity na yokuvula amanye ama-10 ibe yini ama-challenge ukurana leyi-1 so kuzofuneka sibe ne-training institute la sizotrainer abantu ukuthi yini hospitality yini tourism. It's all about abantu ukuthi ba welcome kanjani. Emuva sine admin nathi. Emuva sine HR. So we need to build capacity lapho ukuthi sizoba nayo training and development. Train abantu bethu ukuthi mase siba poster beya kwamanye ama area sebe well equipped.
But Sakumzi, ngifuna ukubuza uke wahlala eEastern Cape, so you've got experience of the different types of food esidlayo eSouth Africa. How do you make sure ukuthi imenu yakho diverse eSakumzi? That's the one side of the question. The other one ukuthi what is the one meal that is mostly ordered lapha eSakumzi?
Abantu abaningi mabeze eSakumzi basithandela isempu umngqusho ngoba uthatha isikhathi ukuvuthwa bayela umkhodu itribe thatha isikhathi mawuyipheka so abantu bathanda itini mabezile ngoba izinto abantu bahlale be on the run so make fike eSakumzi uyazi ukudla seku ready uyafika uyaziphakela can dish a little bit abuye molo kakuthandayo mangabe ufuna ujeqe dombolo likhona sipheka ukudla kwethu. We are proud ukuthi sibamnyama and thina siyabobhuti kakhulu mawudla ipizza uyalamba after an hour.
But kuyafana ukudla. What I wanted to understand ukuthi melody is Zulu, Kimupulana, khona le Motsonga, khona le Movenda. Dijo tsa rona di a tshwana na to a point where you can have one diverse menu.
More or less ukudla kwethu sama kuyafana ngoba ipapa lesithi ayidla even ama-Afrikaner bayithanda ipapa
ngendlela ehlukile
and then sine
sinetini ihlali available sinomngqusho even ama-Italian athanda ama-beans amixe ne-rice.
Yes.
So everyone, even if abantu abaphuma ngaphandle i-stripe besipheka kancane makuze ama-Italian but they get to eat and finish bayiqede. So locals baba at peace ukuthi bazodla ukudla kwabo mabezisa khumsa.
Maybe mhlawumbe umbuzo engabuza ukuthi do you believe ukuthi ukudla esikhule ngakho bokabishi amanqina is somehow a sign of poverty because umuntu oze kwakho baposta ku Instagram there is a status to it, but abantu abaposti kabishi abaposti badla amanqina. Do you think there's a problem there?
It is a challenge ukuthi asisazazi sabo bani. Mabe sikhula nabogogo nabazali bethu bekuphekwa 3 times a day, bekuphekwa umdoko ukudliwa, bekuphekwa emini ngoba ne-economy bime kahle. Manje mase sidla ama-fast food yikho lokho kwenza ukuthi singasakhuli sibe badala njengabazali bethu.
Sure. Wabeki point elinzima. Nangu nonjabulo okazondo ke uthena. I don't think African food is a sign of poverty. It's just that we are living in a fast-paced life and we want food that will cook fast. African food like Istanbul, no bhontshisi and no jeqe zidinga isikhathi eside ukuze ukuthi zivuthwe kahle. Plus you cannot eat it while it's hot. You have to let it cool down. That time you are tired, you are from work or school. And kanjalo kusho ukuthi manje ibuyisa the problem that we have ukuthi ukudla kwethu siyakushiya because thatha isikhathi eside. And now we're dealing in times where food is fast. Kanje ngene kuyaphuma.
But also asikwazi ukupheka.
No, I
mean, ngasikhulumela, yes. But I mean, it's common that a lot of people, and what do you guys offer, you know, a variety of different food, but also I know availability at so we are go north for sometimes.
It's said to travel so long,
yes.
And we get to eat pizza. TV by advertising.
Yeah.
You get to eat foreign food because bane capacity to advertise. So people eat with their eyes. Mabebone guvele Nando's TV, then you start thinking of that. Sure. But if not, with the capacity to advertise, we would remind our people that our food is valuable. We are who we are because of what we eat.
And speaking about advertising, advertising so and I think it's an important thing that you speak about. But what, Papa Sakumzi, what is the one thing that you want people to understand about your traditional food? Because that, you know, we've been, I think we are glossing over this poverty issue, but eating. People see cabbage and they remember cabbage.
Iba challenge to ukulungisa umqondo ngoba usasemuva. An average food esakhumzi is 250 buffet which comes with desserts. So ukuthi ubudla ipapa ne cabbage, you used to be okay. But for us, because we are the only one who's selling that, you are gonna spend 250 just to come and dine with us. It's a place la ozinga ngokuba ngumXhosa, ozinga ngokuba umuntu omnyama. It's our pride. Even our drinks, they don't come cheap because we know who we are. We value ubuntu bethu. Why I opened my restaurant, I was killing that perception ukuthi ukuze ube ngcono funeka ube usesentini. So if you want to be special, you must have been to Vilakazi Street.
Wayibeka futhi yaba simple lento. Thingi ngitshela wena ohlele ekhaya udla idombolo njengamanje. Engingeze ngakhalela ukudla ukudla. Besibuya after the ad break siqhubeka nenkulumo yethu ku Daily Thetha.
Back on Daily Thetha. Now, which of our foods should we be eating and should we be getting influenced by the Western culture in terms of our food? Even on the internet, it's seen through this Western lens. Even if you were to Google, a simple Google search, what a healthy food, Akuna mngqusho mole.
Akuvela amanqina lapho.
Akuveli malana di qilana di malana di ing di ana. Hadi veli. All you see is your broccolis, you know, your cassavas, your salads.
And yazi into ehlekisayo ukuthi mina ngumuntu omusha ngipost ukuthi ngidla inyama yenhloko. People are shocked. Oh wow, udla inyama yenhloko. Why not?
Ujadi trotters.
Hayibo.
That's what we're talking about. We're joined on the couch by Mbali Mpoli, who is a dietitian. She's going to be explaining to us what is also the psychological thing that we've got with certain foods, Mbali. And then we're also joined by Sabel Nsele, who knows everything about African food, is going to tell us what he knows. But Mbali, welcome to Daily Tales, the both of you.
Thank you for having us.
I think I restart them.
Yeah.
Nah. Bread and red jam. Sauce and pasta. Inkumbuza ipoverty engayifuni nje. How do I deal with that trauma?
I think ngasho nje ngichaze ngithi, you know, Western culture or the white culture, over the years kwaba sengazi ukuthi when they arrived bafike nokudla, you know, oku healthy, as if what we already had was not good enough. And kukhona le masikhula ukuthi vele at some point in our lives besine poverty ngoba ukudla besingabi nemali emakhaya, and then ngicine nidle isikwa no jam over and over again because aninayo imali. But now that you can afford ukuthenga ukudla lokho okufunayo, sekuna that, as you're saying, that post trauma yokuthi lokudla was associated ngaleso sikhathi ngena ingekho imali. But also the flip side of it ukuthi nathi singabantu abamnyama, yabona ubona umuntu eposte isinkwa sino jam netiye elinobisi uthi unje yazini ngeke abe nayo 6-pack ngeke aze lose weight. And I think omunye over the weekend ahamba ekhaya Eastern Cape bese yaposte khona Eastern Cape athi nje come Monday I'm going on a diet. Why do we do that to ourselves? Because as much as then the white culture is yavala ukudla kwethu as if ukudla kwethu was not good enough, it is now that the youth or us nama Instagram we can start saying this food is not unhealthy. And from the science point, as a dietitian myself, I can tell you now our food is as healthy as your broccoli. Spinach is as healthy as asparagus.
But surely even broccoli is also our food.
It is. It's, I like that because it's not to say that because it's the African food, then we mustn't eat other foods that are now brought into the basket. We must, but it's just that just because now we can afford other foods.
But Sabel, ngiyakubona uhle lapho lokhu uyazicabanga awusho lutho unyakaza uhleki wena uthini ngale ndaba.
Cha udaba lo mayelana nokudla kwethu njengabantu base-Afrika abansundu. Ngicabanga ukuthi kubaleka kakhulu ukuthi sibuyele emuva sithole ukuthi kungani okhokho babephila ngalolu hlobo lokudla nanokuthi uma sekudliweke kwenzani emzimbeni womuntu. Ngoba uzobona nje uma ngabe ulandelela ubuyele emuva kancane uzokhumbula ukuthi okhokho bethu babekwazi ukuphila iminyaka engaphezulu mhlambe kwekhulu uyaphezulu. Yini na ukudla ababekudla nesimo mvelo lapho babekade bebekusona ukuthi ke bazophila ngalendlela le abezokushintsha.
Kodwa ke Sabel mina la ngibuyisa khona ukuthi sihlala in the 21st century. Uyabona nawe izinto ziyaphuthuma, impilo iyashesha. How is it that we've accepted ukuthi ukudla lokho kusikhule ngakho is not the best food as prescribed? I mean, traditional food is healthy, but we don't see it. Njoba asho sisimbali.
Cabanga ukuthi kuzofuneka ukuthi siqale thina abantu abadala ekakhulukazi emakhaya nomama kube ibona bazodlala indima ukuthi bafundisa abantwana ngemuva labo ngezinto ezithinta ukudla kakhulu bebachazela ukuthi kulapha ini emzimbeni kulapha ziphi izifo ngoba iqiniso nje ukuthi ukudla kwethu lapha eAfrika kulapha izifo eziningi emzimbeni.
But maybe Sabelo, you can explain to us kugephi ukudla okune cultural significance. Like if udla this it means 1 2 3 4. If udla this it means 1 2 3 4 or amantombazana akadli lokhu
inyama yenhloko kanjalo.
Lokho ukuthi ke abantu besifazane noma abantu besilisa kube khona uqheko lokuthi kukhona abangeza ukudla lokho kukhona abazodla lokho. Ngisho ukuthi ngicabanga ukuthi into ebiveli khona kodwa ke ibinganakeki kakhulu. Kusinto ebina kakhulu ngoba khona kukhona ukudla obekungadliwa abantu besifazane ngokwesinto amaqanda nenyama le yengulube namasi ukona kudla obekungafanele ukuthi bakudle kakhulukazi labantu besifazane basebancane ukuthiwa amasheshangene.
So it catalysts puberty.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
interesting. I mean, we're speaking a lot about identity in traditional food.
Yes.
And in the new age, I mean, there's the traditional element, there's the cultural touch, but in the new age, why is it so popular that for me, when I have money, I go to a particular high-class restaurant, wine and dine. And back better,
yeah. Ngicabanga lapho ukuthi it's more because sicabanga ukuthi what we're going to be wining and dining, that's progressive, or that means you are woke enough, or you are more of the 21st century type of a person. But where we're missing the point, that is actually enslaving us. Yabo kuyasiqilaza emqondweni wethu, because mase sithi okay ke manje kumele ngibuyele emumva and think ukuthi oh yazi namhlanje anginayo imali othi ngiyobheka amagwinya, as if lokho kudla manje it's for when you are lacking a little bit of money at that particular time. So ngicabanga ukuthi as young people we need to start being proud, and I've seen a lot of chefs coming up these days proudly posting pictures of traditional food. Yesterday I saw putu nekabish and I was impressed because it's just to show we are becoming much more proud. And for me, the definition of being woke as an African means that you understand with ukudla lokho that you grew up with, as we define it, traditional food, is somehow the foods that identify where you come from. It doesn't mean that you need to eat them all the time, but it just means you don't look down upon those types of foods.
Let's be fair, Mbali, and I think it's what Putsa Kumzi was talking about, availability and access to these foods. It's the same thing similar to media. What media pushes out is what the media owner believes. Now, if a restaurant is not owned by us, how are they going to put African cuisine on the menu? So how then do we get around that? Because we also have to push our own food.
We do. And I like Ugutu Babu Sakums is one of those people who are the leaders of such movements whereby black people are owning restaurants and putting it out there. I mean, you talk about Sakumzi restaurant, it's known wherever you go. Whoever has been to South Africa knows that restaurant. And it is that type of mentality that we must all start instilling in our minds. Earlier on, there was a question or a comment about African food being difficult to cook, that it takes longer. We are aware of meal prep. Why don't you boil when you've got time and start boiling those beans, freezing them? So that okay. Say you want to go buy food, then go to restaurants like Sakumzi's and the likes, and then buy food there.
I mean, esikhalo sami sokuthi lokho kwesilungu ngibona kuyasho ukuthi calories, kuyasho ukuthi energy. But ukudla kwesintu, I don't know that, so I would not go for a domball. Are we teaching enough about what kind of benefits, nutritional values that is to life?
100%, I agree. Earlier on, I had a conversation with Babsa Kumzi, and we were talking about such things, that a person comes to his restaurant and be like, I want vegan diet, or I'm on a vegan diet, I want something vegan, I'm banting. So it is people like me, I've come forward and I'm like, as a dietitian, I'm setting myself apart. I want to focus on African foods or traditional foods, just to bring out the scientific and the nutritional analysis of that. So, of course, I'm the only person that at the moment is driving that, not only, but one of the few people. And we need to get more of the scientific or the scientists like me who's going to come up and help restaurants bring those type of information, so that when you go to Sakumzi the next time, you see calories, that if you eat this is the amount of calories that you will get.
Sure, 100%. Interesting. We've got Uncle Romeo Mbiko saying, I don't think African food is associated with spiritual beliefs. Sabelo. I remember at school we were told to make a traditional dish and present it at school. I couldn't find any association. But what I did notice was that it was more healthy than the Western food. For example, Umnusho Nomfino grew up being told that they would make you strong and not sick. And indeed, I wasn't sick for a long period. And even though I don't like it currently, but I know it's a healthy meal. And that's a very interesting one to have, because people have found nutritional value in African food. But also we need to speak about this judgment that people then impose on you if you don't know how to cook African food. But let's come back after the break.
Sanamgela back to Daily Thetha la ku SABC 1. Ayibophuthelwe ke ayikhuleka sikhona na ku Facebook Live la ukwazi ukuthi uhambe khona uyo catch up konke into esenzekile no episode. But today speaking mostly about ukudla and ukudla kwesintu and the journey and the social status around it. Uyabona ke sekunama plate sekufikile kusho ukuthi isikhathi sokudla sesondele. And yazi ke into zethu ke lezo.
And I think you working, you know when you're eating, sonto ubite batho. That's those are good manners. But la bona only plate 5 so yeah, and I mean it's quite exciting for us because we've got Severia here who cooked this meal. So welcome to Daily Thetha, Severia Ngalashe, right? And then we also got Neonato who's self-taught. You've now just been enlisted on one of the delivery services to deliver some of your food. So welcome to Daily Thetha. And then of course we've got Tusiswe too, Ombali here. Severia, before we get into the conversation,
I made ostrich with carrot puree and tomato, garlic, and thyme relish. A lot of people don't know this, but ostrich is grown broadly across Africa, and it's a very lean meat. We've been eating it since ancient African time, from the 12th century.
But is ostrich like a normal meal? Like it sounds very foreign to me. I want to job.
Sounds expensive.
How many millions is that? But how accessible? Is there really like a market for abantu abathanda ostrich?
Well, accessibility right now is not that great because ostrich, you have to get it from the farm. So you have to build a relationship with your farmers as consumers for you to have access to all the African foods that we have in the continent.
So talk to us about this meal. I mean, carrot puree, the thyme, there's a whole woman, and then there's are those edible flowers?
Yes, there is edible
flowers. So talk us through this. Why is it so fancy? It feels like a distance between that meal and what I'm going to cook in my house.
Well, for example, carrot, there's different ways to eat carrot. You don't always have to fry it or boil it.
Or
you
put it
also,
in chakalak.
Yes, you can also like mash it. There's different food processing methods. So I was trying to portray all the different ways you can eat carrot instead of just eating it as a coleslaw. Or
Now, maybe to bring you in as somebody othanda ukuhlala ekitchen, ostrich bakufika uvakashile bakhiphele endlini. What's your first reaction?
Very fancy. Very fancy. I think I've tasted it once or twice, and that's because I never grew up with it. That's the main reason. Now, I've got nothing against it, but I don't know it from home.
It's very interesting that she says that because a lot of people will judge me for not eating trotters. But
you know what I'm saying?
It's never been a thing that we eat, you know? So that for me is also something that is quite interesting. But during the ad break, we were talking a little bit about this elitism when it comes to food, you know? The way people cook food. Can you take us through the different ways in which people can cook food and what it means about the way they cook it?
So there's many ways you can cook food. How I cook my food is I prefer incorporating, like she says, African elements into it. Like the ostrich, she said, it was an ingredient that we used to cook with back then. It's always been an African ingredient. So that's how my kitchen is based on. That's what it's based on. African food, things that I grew up with. But my style is more, I prefer incorporating it with Western food and Westernizing it because. As Africans, we're moving more that direction when it comes to our food culture, but I don't want us to lose it completely. I still want us to make trotters, but instead of just boiling them with salt, maybe we can put them in the oven to crisp the skin.
Can we understand that? Because earlier, there's not enough traditional on its own without Western. And you've taken a different direction when Western tradition.
Everything. Want everything to be included. Because Western food is where it's going and we are interested in it. We can't say we're not. We want the Western food. So we can't say we're not going to cook Western food because I feel like I'm abandoning African food. Why can't we do both in one dish?
I'm very, very interested in asking the men that are sitting in this room, right? And I'd like to go across to that gentleman on that side. crispy skin. You know, if listening to Neo, ba go shapela di trotters, ba di kense bacon, ba di shapela ka crispiness, will you still feel like you are eating what is called African food?
No.
Why not, Papa?
Akuse nayo leya originally yasemakhaya.
Yeah.
Mangithanda siqondise lento ngizobuyela ku point khona ubhuti okhulumile wathi kunokudla esikhohlwayo.
Yeah.
Okunempilo kwe traditional.
Yeah.
Kodwa sisekulibalayo.
Yeah.
Kunomcaba. Umcaba umbila.
Okay.
Owenziwe
yesu ya
ngetshe then bese udla nemfino.
Yes.
Lokho kudla siswami kubaluleke kakhulu empilweni yomuntu ngoba uma ukudla kuma small intestine kuyaqala kuya remove ukudla okudala okuhleli kuma small intestine until to the large intestine.
Ayingcono ngoba ukhona i-dietitian yethu.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what he's just said.
So that food is high in fiber. So we need the insoluble fiber to bulk the stool and move it out of the system in a sense of avoiding constipation. But of course, one will need to drink quite a bit of water because with that high fiber quantity, you can actually make constipation worse. I mean, so that is a work of beautiful fiber that is there. I love that. I love that combination. Yeah.
Sisibali, maybe just to understand also, because I mean, ukudla kwesintu kunendlela kuphekwa ngayo, umane nje ukuthatha ufake ku-oven izishi. What are the precautionary elements that need to be taken into consideration? Bozopheka izinto ezifana nomxabiso, amanqina.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is food should be about nourishment, nutrition, affordability, accessibility, but also enjoyment.
Yeah.
And if you enjoy trotters, asenziwe afaka the crispiness, afaka the eliteness in them, as Nea was saying, then go for them. They are as good enough as the bold trotters. But in the sense of how do we cook our food, the first thing is food safety. Clean your food, clean the space you're cooking your food in.
Uzakumina ke manje. Yabona le nkukhu le ehlatshiwe la ekhaya egcekeni uma ayibambile wayiking.
Free range.
Yabona bebiza nge-rubber chicken.
Yeah.
Abantu abaningi bayakhala that that's not a good chicken. As compared ukuthi lena esitholayo that's well decorated from a particular brand, because leya nkukhu ngibonile uma ayithatha wayistima wayifaka emanzini eshisayo. Why again it goes back to why do we then think that's not healthy? That's not fresh? Like
nutritionally, I can tell you now, science says that chicken that has been roaming around in the yard is the same nutritional value as the one that you're going to find in the retail shelf. Even though bangaze bayibiza but it's organic and what? Organic is an agricultural process. It has nothing to do with the nutrition part of your food. So bamba le nkukhu leyana icutu, but the biggest thing that puts us in that type of a frenzy and we go, it's tidiness and safety and how we handle our food. You know, because uzobuya nale nkukhu angithi negazi, and then the next thing uyenzelela with this board, and then mase uyiqedile nkukhu khona kuleli board leli lingawashwanga usuwenza cabbage. No, we can't do that because that brings us diseases, thola abantwana bene diarrhea and stuff like that. We need to be neat around food. And mase kupheka ukhuluma ngomxabiso. I mean, masubilisile ukudla kwakho kungenasawoti sekukhathele nje sekuthe, you're then going to say African food is not tasty. Make it nice. And we are now exposed to all these flavors and herbs and the chefs here by my side are saying let's bring those things into our food, and it doesn't take away the Africanness of our foods.
And that as to what you have decided, maybe is this your reason when Asavari that you decided to because you have your own garden and that's where you get your own vegetables for your restaurant? Was that the reason?
I think we need to stop tribalizing African food.
Okay.
Because then you're limiting your dietary needs. So if you eat like a variety of fruits and vegetables and herbs across different African countries, you can, sustain your livelihood and your community can be healthier because African indigenous food is actually medication, because back then we didn't have all these diseases which we get from genetically modified foods, and we didn't have all these vaccines that are actually toxic for our bodies. So African food is really healthy for.
But maybe Melody can come in there and ask Neo, because right? It's about how you are cooking it. And often people say the things that you add are what now makes the food less healthy. And you're saying you like to experiment and you're adding things. That judgment, what am I adding, and does it still add the nutritional value as somebody said?
Yes. So, like she said, it doesn't necessarily take away from the nutrition, the
yes.
Africanness of the food.
Yes.
It's more of instead of boiling it or steaming a chicken after slaughtering it, you can do that. You can boil it, you can do all of that, and then when you're done, you can just add it to the oven to crisp the skin. It doesn't take away anything. It just gives it a different element and texture, which is for me, I'm big on textures and different elements in food, especially traditional food, because it gets boring.
So how do you get that buy-in now? Even that ngusho of yours that has a bit of spicy nyana and a black pepper is still African.
So on my platform, when I started, I showed people how I create the food through videos.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for about 2-3 years now, showing people how I create it. And I only recently, last week actually, I was listed on the delivery platform through that trust that I created around me.
I like that. I think what Newa has managed to do is what Butisa Kums is also crying about, you know, being able to move our African food to various people using various ways to move it. So that's quite interesting. But when we come back, we carry on the conversation. What is the best food that you have eaten? Please stay with us after the break.
Sanamukela back to Daily Thetha ngithole ngisaphaka kodwa ke hayi sase ngangena. Of course getting a taste kancane ukuthi le ostrich kunembali phakathi. Sisi uphathele imbali bekumele ngiyikhiphe or angisunderstand mina.
The edible flowers.
Ayadleka.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Hey bengishona la Nkosi yami. Ningivaliselele kumaka kancane.
Unayo life insurance.
Hayi ndoda ungasashi. Iyawa nokuwa le mbali. Hayi man. Yazi le mbali le.
All right, that should be very interesting. Le nna ke batla zamana na le blomo le ke le bone ke batla le ja show e fela ka le kenza ko molomong. That's what we're talking about. Le khona re lebela taba ya dijo re nyaka tshibara na when what are you eating at home right now when you're watching Daily Thetha? What is on your plate? Now we're not saying gore jang African food fela, but sometimes you need to get a better understanding gore tsona dijo tsa rona na what type of nutritional value do they have, and also how healthy are they, but also what is the social rebrand that we need to be doing as Batwamo South Africa to bring back the glory of our food. Now, what do we need to do? How do we bring back the glory of our food, our African food, and the way we cook it?
How do we bring it back?
Yes.
So, a lot of people actually don't know how to cook African food. Like you were saying previously.
Yes.
So we need to... Yes, everyone thinks you just boil, you just put salt. The most you're gonna go is Raja.
Yeah.
You know, that's what everybody thinks.
Yes.
But it's not like that. You can incorporate a lot of things into your food and change the way you cook it and not boil it. Maybe fry it before you boil it, or maybe put it in the oven before you boil it. Just explore more
and experiment
and experiment more. Just be open-minded about it.
But guy, because I live in the northern suburbs of Johannesburg. The best you can get are gizzards, but you can't even get, like, you know, the small chicken intestines. Those are the things that I grew up eating. I mean, I grew up eating locusts, guys. It's crazy, but I did. But I can't find any of those things in the shops. So guy.
We have a very big lack of that in the northern suburbs. Definitely, it's big, but we have to drive out. We have to drive out. Unfortunately, you have to go. There's no specific place. You have to go to a butchery. You have to go to the township where there's farms. You have to go to the farms around Joburg and find someone to assist you. Like she mentioned earlier that, and that's the only way you can do it. Especially if you want fresh things. If you want fresh liver, if you want fresh chicken intestines, if you want fresh muhodu, fresh tongue, and there's some suppliers that actually deliver to your door. If you can actually search for them, they deliver from their farms to your door.
Very interesting.
Maybe to encouragement for those who are in agriculture, small farms, and they don't know how to grow. How would you encourage people to start grooming their own in their small little areas?
You don't need a lot of space to start a farming business.
Okay.
You just need a good strategic business model. For example, if you don't have grass, you can grow spinach and herbs in organic refuse bags. And you can also speak to the community And you can make a stokvel, like an agricultural stokvel, where you all, you know, chip in together to provide food security for the
because I mean, sakhuthaza abantu emakhaya ukuthi bangene. Maybe we bring in, put some kumzi there, just a bit, because is there really money in that possibility? Because now, yeah, something so chale, and now all of a sudden we have nothing now, and people have spent a lot of money. We saw it with tourism, 2010. But economically, agriculture is
Economic agriculture ngoba Tina la eval sifake spinach this week, next week safake sinye, the other week. So every week we get to go back. Stole spinach mahala. Next week spinach mahala. Snawa matanga. Snomhlaba alright la eMzansi. So asisa spend more than 10,000 every week. Siyotenga ma veg esithi deep. Says minus are 4,000 manje. Ngoba some of the veggies are gone. Even ama strawberry. So we're telling garden.
You know, Melody, I think I've got a question, and I would like to ask Teddy on the other side.
Yeah.
Globally, we are branded as being the country on Heritage Day of braai.
Yeah.
Braai, pap and braai, pap and meat. Is that really our traditional food? Should we be changing that narrative so that even people outside of South Africa understand it's not just about pap and braai?
Okay, I think the braai thing, it's ke batho ba basweu ke bona ba di Brian what ka Heritage Day rona re ja bo moroho bo stampo and everything,
but akere ba dula mo South Africa. Yes. So is it part of South African culture now?
Yeah, I'd say yes. But then again, let's go like I studied hospitality. Not even once I remember I was taught to cook moroho. It's always body chicken a la king, chicken a la what. So I feel like they should introduce African food, go the modules in Taron. Ke ruto etsa dombolo or something nice. Not in jalo ke body yellow rice, pink rice. My mom doesn't eat crab. She doesn't like crab. She doesn't like seafood. So get against in skolong if kesa khonutlo etsa di practicals da ka mo high.
My brother Thapelo, king African food go when?
African food on ke dijo tse healthy on.
Tse healthy. Anything that is healthy is African.
Ke just like moro banana pumpkin
because it sounds a melody to me like most of the foods it's food that even other cultures eat.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to come back to Sisimbali. It's okay, Sisimbali. I mean, prime example, we have an ostrich right here. How do we as abantu abamnyama started into sibuyisele elokishini ukuthi kuse into kanjena mele sibuyele kuleyo culture ukuthi sipheka ukuthi wase how do we rebrand us owning the traditional food space without allowing the Western culture ukuthi isiqinye nendlela esiqinye ngayo manje?
Yeah, siqinekile. Yeah, sizwele. But I think the biggest thing qalangat ourselves. We need to be confident in our food. We need to be really confident ukuthi the food that we are eating is healthy. Because you go now kubantu baseGermany uthi yazini uyabudla ubuhobe. Umuntu uzothi angibudli because ngengikwazi ukuthola i-6 pack if ngibudle. But why? Because nutritionally you should be able to incorporate it as part of your diet.
So pap is healthy?
Yeah, as part of a balanced diet. Remember, the key is that you don't eat one food every day. The key is variety of foods. So in a sense of how we used to eat pap, where every day, breakfast, lunch and supper, keep up, then that's where problems begin. And that's where now, even in the westernized type of way, even where I studied dietetics, pap was like, no, then you need to change a person who eats pap and then they must eat rice or brown rice. But it's only now that I'm confident in this game that I'm saying, no, people should not be changed from eating pap to eating brown rice. People should be taught about quality and the quantity of their food.
That's very interesting.
You are aching for that. Amagunya were not originally our African food. We're just meant for convenience. So in a way, when you look into amagunya, they are still more westernized type of way. So they are not unhealthy, but the quantity again and the quality, how much of those magunya you're eating and how often do you eat them, that becomes a problem.
So then, Bali, and maybe to all of you in 1 minute, literally, is it the food or how we prepare it that makes it African?
Yeah.
Both.
Because I feel like sometimes we all eat the same thing, guys. Chicken is chicken, duck is duck, ostrich is ostrich.
But that's why I was saying we shouldn't tribalize African food.
Yeah.
Because South Africans think we can
You want
only
to
eat
own-
South African food.
Yeah.
And we have no relationships with other African countries.
Yeah.
For me,
with
it's
the
preparation.
segregation.
Preparation.
Because Chinese have mkhodu.
Yes. Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Chinese have mkhodu?
But Chinese have got worms.
Try.
What do you call them?
Mashonja. Yeah.
Mashonja, the Chinese have got trotters.
Yeah.
All the trotters from pork to sheep.
Yeah.
But the preparation is totally different. They use soy sauce.
Hayi sesizweleke namhlanje sikhule kakhulu ngokudla. Ngicela ukuthi nje sivale show sithi sibonge kakhulu kwena mbukeli. Iphinde futhi sihlangane between 10 and 10 ku SABC 1 Monday to Thursday. Siyabonga.
Uyohlangana nobani ngo-10?